So Reformed theology is packaging. It's a label. And the reason why many people like Reformed theology is because it's biblical theology. Now everybody says, oh, we're biblical too, we're biblical too. I think the people who are persuaded by the Reformed theological tradition see a synchronicity, see a lining up of the theology that people have developed along with the Word of God, which is inspired by God himself. And so there's a syncing up of those two, which makes people excited about Reformed theology. At the same time, let's not get caught up in a human theological tradition as the end-all be-all. So I really get disappointed when Christians look to other Christians who aren't necessarily Reformed in their theological leanings and sort of look down on them. I don't think that's proper or appropriate at all. I also don't think that for African Americans, we should, as we learn about Reformed theology, because most of us didn't grow up with that packaging or that label, to totally throw out the black church as if the black church teachings have some sort of deficiency in them. And in the same breath, I'll say the black church has taught a lot of what the formal tradition of Reformed theology teaches. They just didn't use the labels. And so insofar as the black church is biblical, insofar as Reformed theology is biblical, they line up. The other thing is Reformed theology is not a done deal, right? Like we have to avoid theological imperialism of this tradition, which was mostly developed in white Western European and North American contexts, from saying, okay, we've got this great finished product of theology. Here you go, black people. Here you go, black church. It shouldn't be like that at all. What there should be is a dialogue between different traditions. And so Reformed theology as it stands has a lot to learn from the black church tradition, and we can pick up some things from others as well. So I just want to avoid any sense that like Reformed theology is the end-all be-all. It's a helpful shorthand for some of what the Bible teaches, but I think in the spirit of the Reformation, semper reformanda, always reforming, we always need to be thinking through how can this get better, more robust, and speak to the issues of our times from the eternal Word of God. So with Reformed theology, almost as with the United States as a political entity, what's on paper is really good. So if you look at the civil rights movement and any justice movements, a lot of times activists weren't trying to create something new. What they were doing is calling people back to what they professed to believe. That's why folks so often bring up the Declaration of Independence, where all people are created equal. Like, that's great. That is great stuff on paper. Now live it out. And I think it's the same with Reformed theology. There's actually embedded in formal written Reformed theology the ethical principles for the equality of all people. There is embedded in Reformed theology the moral robustness to tackle any issue from mass incarceration to sexism to racism. It's there. But because as human beings, we always get so caught up in the culture. We always cozy up to power. We're always reluctant to give up comfort. We've taken these great teachings that have been developed and we've sort of thrown them out, or we've been selective with them. And so I think our charge today is, yes, to continue to develop theology because we're always facing new situations, but it's also a call to be who we say we are. It's to be who we say we are as the people of God and people of the Bible. And it's to be who we say we are as folks who are persuaded by these theological teachings and to actually live them out and practice them.